Do you believe your own parents could try to hurt you? I didn't. Not until that night. It was supposed to be my big day, graduation. 4 years at NYU, juggling part-time jobs, late nights, and endless assignments. I thought walking into my parents' penthouse for the party would feel like victory. Instead, it felt like stepping onto a stage where I didn't belong. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, but all I saw was the stiffness in my mother's smile. The way my father's eyes slid past me as if I were some stranger. Guests in tailored suits and glittering dresses congratulated them for raising 2 beautiful daughters. They meant Chloe, of course, always Chloe. When I tried to hug my dad, he leaned in, whispered through clenched teeth, "Don't embarrass us tonight. Don't remind everyone you're still a leech, on the night I'd earned my diploma." The words lodged in my throat like broken glass. I forced a smile, nodding as if I hadn't just been gutted. Music swelled from the hired string quartet. Waiters glided with trays of champagne. Everyone clinked glasses, laughter ricocheting off marble walls. But under that polished surface, I felt the rot. And then it happened. I caught my father near the bar, his back half turned. His hand slipped into his jacket pocket, pulled out a tiny vial, white powder. My heart slammed. I blinked, convinced I'd imagined it. But I saw it. The quick flick of his wrist as he tipped the powder into a single flute of champagne, the one with a gold rim. My flute. For a moment, time froze. The room blurred, voices muffled. Only that glass glowed in my vision, a bright trap disguised as celebration, my breath caught. Did I really just see that? Maybe it was sugar? No. His eyes darted around, scanning, making sure no one noticed. Except I did. And in that instant, every puzzle piece clicked. The endless criticisms, the constant comparisons to Chloe, the whispers of a problem that needed fixing. I thought they just meant my choices, my independence. But what if the problem was me? I pressed my palms together, hiding the tremor. My chest tightened, air thinning. My parents, my own blood, were planning something darker than rejection. I looked around the glittering room. Old friends, professors, even my childhood piano teacher. Everyone smiling, drinking, blissfully unaware. If I screamed right then, who would believe me? Who would take my side over Richard, the powerful patriarch of Manhattan society? The champagne glass sat there, waiting, like a loaded gun dressed in gold. And that's when a voice inside me whispered, "This is not just about a drink. This is about survival. You think family means safety. You think parents mean protection. But what if the very people meant to shield you are the ones sharpening the knife?" That night, in the middle of my own graduation party, I learned the truth. Family can betray you in ways strangers never could. And it all began with that single glass of champagne. If you've ever been forced into a role you didn't choose, you know the sting. For me, it started with a dress. I had picked out a simple black gown. Classic, modest, mine. But as soon as I stepped into my parents' room that evening, my mother's face tightened. "Elena," she sighed, dragging out my name like it was a mistake. "You can't wear that. You'll embarrass us." She pulled a shimmering silver dress from the closet, sequins catching the chandelier light. It wasn't me. It was Chloe. Dazzling. Perfect. The kind of dress meant to shine on magazine covers, not classrooms or community centers. I shook my head. "Mom, I don't want to wear that." Her lips thinned. "Do you want people thinking we don't care about you? Do you want them whispering that Chloe is the only one worth celebrating?" And there it was, the comparison I'd lived with all my life. Chloe floated into the room, hair curled, lips painted in soft pink gloss. She looked like she belonged in that penthouse. She always had. My mother clapped her hands. "See, Elena? Look at your sister. That's how you present yourself, I froze. Not because it was new, but because it was so achingly familiar. Flashback. I'm 10 years old, holding up a drawing from art class. Chloe is 8, her watercolor painting splattered with hearts. Dad beams at her, lifts her onto his lap. Our little star. My drawing? He barely glanced before folding the paper in half, sliding it under a stack of bills. Back to the party prep, years later, and nothing had changed. I was still the background, Chloe the centerpiece. I slipped into the silver gown, sequins scraping my skin. The fabric felt heavy, foreign. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see me. I saw a character my mother had written for me, one I never auditioned for. Walking into the party, the difference between us widened. Guests swarmed Chloe, showering her with praise. "You're glowing!" Such a vision of grace. When their eyes landed on me, it was softer, patronizing. "You must be so proud of your sister." Proud of my sister, on my graduation day. Every word was a pinprick. Every compliment for Chloe felt like a reminder that I was the wrong daughter, the spare part. You know that moment when you're in a room full of people, but somehow you feel invisible? That was me, standing in sequins that weren't mine, forcing a smile while my inside screamed. I wanted to shout, "Look at me! I earned this degree. I fought for it. I matter." But the words stuck, because deep down, I wasn't sure anyone in that room wanted to hear them. And maybe you felt that too, that quiet ache of being the overlooked one, the one who never fits the family picture. It cuts deeper than anyone realizes. The music swelled, glasses clinked. My father raised his hand for silence, about to speak. But all I could feel was the scratch of sequins, the weight of eyes comparing me to Chloe again and again. That night, before the poison, before the chaos, the real wound was already there, a lifetime of being second best. And I wonder, have you ever been dressed up in someone else's skin just to make the world believe a lie? The music slowed. A string quartet played something elegant, notes floating like bubbles in the air. Guests pressed closer, forming a circle around my father as he lifted his glass. He looked proud. To everyone else, it was the image of a man celebrating his daughter's success. To me, it was the face of a predator hiding in plain sight. The champagne shimmered under the lights, golden and inviting. My glass, the one with the gold rim, sat right in front of me. My hand trembled as I reached for it. I could still see him, minutes earlier, slipping that white powder into the flute. No one else had noticed, only me. My heart pounded so loudly I thought people would hear, my palms slicked with sweat. 1,000 eyes sparkled around me, but not a single one saw the trap waiting at my fingertips. He raised his voice. To family, to tradition, to Chloe and Elena. The room erupted in claps and cheers. I stared at the glass. If I refused, questions would rise. If I drank, I'd die. If I spoke up, who would believe me? Him, the respected Richard, versus me, the daughter branded as a leech. And then I glanced at Chloe. She beamed, basking in the attention. For once, she wasn't just the golden child. She was my little sister, smiling like the world adored her. And in that split second, instinct took over. I swapped glasses. My hand slid hers closer, mine away. Nobody noticed. Slow motion. The crystal touched her lips. The bubbles burst in tiny pops. She laughed softly, tilting her head back, and then, collapse. Her glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. The music screeched to a halt. Gasps ripped through the crowd. Chloe's body twisted, limbs stiffening as her knees hit the ground. "Chloe!" My mother's scream pierced the room, raw and panicked. Guests rushed forward, dresses swishing, shoes clicking frantically against the floor. I froze. My chest caved. I had done it. I had saved myself, but condemned her. Do you understand that kind of choice? To protect your own life, you hand over the danger to someone you love? What would you have done if it were your sister? My father's face drained of color. He lunged forward, but it wasn't the face of concern. It was shock. His plan had cracked open for everyone to see. The air stank of spilled champagne, sharp and sour. People whispered, panicked. What happened? Poison? Seizure? Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Someone had already called 911. I knelt beside Chloe, shaking her, begging her to breathe. The sequins of my dress cut into my skin as I clutched her, glitter scratching my arms. Her eyes fluttered, unfocused. For once, she wasn't the perfect sister. She was just a girl, fragile, broken, and mine to protect. And in that moment, the truth slammed into me harder than the music's silence. My father had tried to kill me, but it was Chloe who bore the fall. The scene burned into my memory, the broken glass, the circle of horrified faces, my mother's sobs echoing off marble walls. And above it all, my father's silence. He didn't deny it. He didn't defend me. He just stood there, exposed, a man whose mask had slipped. That night, my life changed forever. Not because of the diploma, not because of the party, but because of one glass of champagne. The sirens faded, but the sound kept ringing in my head. High, thin, like a thread pulled too tight. I stood in the foyer, sequins scratching my ribs, while officers moved through our penthouse with careful, practiced steps. You know that sterile smell of latex and lemon cleaner? It swallowed the usual perfume of my mother's roses. A cop took the gold-rimmed flute into an evidence bag. Another wrote down names. I gave my statement, hands still shaking, voice steadying one word at a time. They asked, "Did you see anyone tamper with the drink?" "Yes." "Who?" "My father." Saying it out loud felt like stepping onto solid ground after hours in rough water, terrifying, anchoring, real. Chloe left with the medics, oxygen mask, pale lips, lashes damp with tears. I followed to the elevator doors, then froze at the threshold. She mouthed something. It looked like, "Don't go." I said I'd be right behind her. I meant it. At the hospital, everything blurred into beeps and hushed shoes. You measure time differently there, by the rhythm of monitors and the temperature of coffee. I watched the EKG like it could hear my prayers. They ran talk screens. They hung a bag of fluids. Someone said, "Stable." I clung to that word like a doc post in a storm, doctor. Patel came in with a clipboard and the kind eyes I needed that night. "She'll be okay," he said. "Whatever was in her system, she didn't ingest much. We'll keep her overnight." Relief came in waves, weak-kneed, salty, messy. I cried into a hospital blanket that smelled faintly of bleach. If you've ever felt your whole life exhale at once, you know what I mean. Then the police called. They had my father in custody, witness statements, the glass, security footage in the kitchen hallway he didn't know existed, the vial. I answered their questions in a quiet consultation room. White walls, a box of tissues, a stack of outdated magazines about summer brunches. I described his pocket, his hands, his eyes. The officer wrote quickly, the way people do when a story fits into a shape they recognize. Intent, opportunity, evidence. I walked back to Chloe's room and found her awake, lids heavy, voice a whisper. "Elena? I'm here. Was it for you?" My throat burned. "Yes, a beat. I'm glad it wasn't. I'm sorry it was you." She squeezed my fingers. "We're sisters. Simple, final. Like a vow we hadn't learned to say until that moment." Morning brought headlines. Phones buzzed across nurses' stations. A talking head on TV tried to look grave. Respected financier detained after incident at daughter's graduation party. Respectable words for something that wasn't respectable. Cameras found the lobby, then the sidewalk, then any angle they could steal. If you were on the street that day, you probably saw a swarm of microphones moving like a single hungry animal. I went home once to pack a bag and breathe in my own room before it stopped being mine. Crime scene tape cut across the entry like a diagonal sentence. I stepped around it. The living room looked staged and abandoned. Abandoned glasses, abandoned conversation, abandoned image. My mother sat on a sofa she usually guarded with her life. She looked smaller in daylight. She reached for me, then seemed to remember herself and folded her hands in her lap. "Chloe, she'll be okay. Thank God." She paused. "This has gotten out of hand." The words stung. Out of hand? Like a dinner running late? "Mom, he poisoned a glass." She blinked fast. "You shouldn't say that." Then, "Lawyers are on their way." For the first time, it occurred to me that truth and love were not the same language in this house. The arraignment happened in a courtroom that smelled of wood polish and old arguments. My father wore a suit that tried to pretend nothing had changed. He wouldn't look at me. I watched the prosecutor speak in the flat tone of professionals who carry heavy stories gently. Probable cause, chain of custody, risk of flight. A judge set conditions. Flashbulbs popped when we walked out. A journalist shouted a question that sounded like an accusation, weeks stretched. Investigators pieced timelines. Lab results hardened into facts. Lawyers sharpened their sentences and sent them out like arrows. I learned new phrases. Pattern of coercive control. Aggravating circumstances. Attempted assault with a dangerous substance. You never think you'll memorize those. Then you do. Chloe came home and stayed at my place. 2 rooms in Brooklyn that finally felt like a shelter instead of a compromise. We learned small rituals, tea at dusk, phones face down, one honest check-in before bed. The first night, she cried because she couldn't bear the thought that the same hands that taught her to tie shoelaces could tip poison into a glass. I didn't have an answer. I just sat with her. Sometimes you don't need answers. You need company that won't look away. As the case moved, the city moved with it. Some people sent kindness. Strangers mailed postcards with little hearts, no return address. Others sent venom dressed as concern. Are you sure you didn't misunderstand? You know that tone, the one that tries to turn your trauma into a debate club topic. I learned to stop reading those. I learned to eat breakfast even when the news made eggs taste like chalk. Mary avoided cameras, then failed to. The press caught her once on Madison Avenue. Pearls, sunglasses, a miscalculated smile that never reached her eyes. The clip ran everywhere. Comment sections did what comment sections do. Sympathy mixed with scorn. People called her complicit. People called her a prisoner. Maybe both were true. I didn't have room to settle that, not then. The plea we expected didn't come. My father was a man who had built a career out of never being wrong. He took that conviction into the courtroom like a trophy. The trial opened with a parade of ordinary objects made terrible by context. A glass, a lab report, a screenshot of text messages he should never have sent. You sit there and watch your life converted into exhibits, and you think, this is what it takes for the world to believe a daughter over a patriarch. A table of numbered bags. When the verdict landed, guilty on the counts that meant years, the courtroom air shifted. It's hard to describe that sound. No cheering, no drama. Just a collective exhale from people who had been holding their breath without realizing it. The judge spoke about trust, about the duty owed to family, about the harm done by those who trade love for control. I stared at my hands, and let the words wash over me like rain on a hot sidewalk. Outside, the sky was absurdly beautiful. Clear June blue. I remember laughing once, short and surprised, because how dare the day be so perfect? Chloe laughed too. We didn't plan it. It bubbled up because grief and relief sometimes drink from the same well. We walked to the river and sat on a bench that had seen 1,000 other stories. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I used to think strength meant being who they wanted, she said, and now? Now I think it means being who we are, even if no one claps. I smiled. I'll clap. She nudged me. I'll clap louder. We tried normal, groceries, laundromat spin cycles, texting each other bad memes. I met with a counselor who didn't ask me to forgive before I was ready. Chloe picked up her sketchbook again, pencils scratching at midnight like crickets. The house we grew up in felt far away, like a museum we no longer had tickets for. Every so often, someone would ask, "Do you miss them?" It's a cruel question dressed as curiosity. Here's my answer, in case you're wondering too. I miss the idea I had of them. I mourn the version that never existed, and then I breathe. Because mourning a myth is better than living inside one. If you're listening and you've survived a thing like this, you know the relief that comes with a verdict. It doesn't fix you. It doesn't rewind time. But it gives your nervous system a place to land. Sleep returns in small pieces. Food tastes like itself again. Laughter stops feeling like betrayal. That's where I was. Perched on the edge of a new life, knees still bruised from the old one, finally tasting quiet. I thought the worst was behind us. I let myself believe the story had ended in a courtroom with a gavel and a sky the color of forgiveness. I was wrong. I thought silence would feel like peace. It didn't. It felt like a room where the clock was too loud. Brooklyn mornings, kettle hissing, sun stripe on the table. Those small good things finally came back. Then my phone buzzed once, twice, then all at once, notifications stacked like falling books. At first it was a blog post, then a local segment, then national. The story had mutated, grown a new tale. Not poison at a party anymore. Now it was money, old money, quiet money. The kind of money that teaches you not to say money. I opened an article because I'm human, and humans look at the thing that scares them. Bold letters filled my screen, heavy black, impossible to ignore. Heiress of scandal? Hidden trust could be worth millions. Zoom in. That headline swallowed the rest of the page. The words stretched, distorted, until they were all I could see. Heiress, scandal, hidden, millions. It wasn't just glass and poison anymore. It was legacy. It was motive other people could assign to me. You know that feeling when a rumor puts a new face on you and then forces you to wear it? That's what it felt like. Overnight, strangers called me something I didn't recognize, a story I didn't write. Comment sections told me who I was, a leech who'd finally struck gold, a mastermind, a tragic daughter, a liar. Pick a lane, internet. But it didn't matter which version they chose. Each one pinned me to a board I didn't consent to. I made tea and forgot to drink it. The steam curled up and vanished before I remembered the cup. My inbox thickened with subject lines that sounded friendly and weren't. Opportunity to share your journey, exclusive interview, set the record straight with us first. PR sharks, true crime podcasters, strangers with microphones and sympathy that smelled like bait. By noon, reporters had mapped the sidewalk outside my building. The buzz of their voices rose every time the door opened, like flies lifting off a window. I took the back stairs, heartbeat loud enough to trip the motion sensor lights. Anxiety does that. It makes every fluorescent hum sound like a warning. At the grad center, my advisor's face softened the way people do when they're about to tell you something hard. "Elena, I support you," she said, hands warm around a mug. "But the media's asking questions. The department wants to be sure you're okay." "Okay." Such a small word for a life in the spin cycle. In the library, I tried to read. I watched the same paragraph march in place, the words not sticking. Across from me, a student whispered to another, eyes flicking up, then away, like I was both a person and a headline at once. My phone rang with an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. Voicemail. Again. The fourth time, I answered because sometimes courage is just picking up. A crisp, controlled voice. Miss. Hart? This is Daniel Reed, counsel for the Williams Family Trust. I didn't speak at first. The last name, Williams, had the weight of my grandmother's signature on it. I'm listening. There's a matter concerning a portion of assets that may not have been disclosed to the court. We believe you should be aware. 2 things can happen to your body at once. Your spine strengthens and your stomach drops. Why now? Because now the people who wanted it concealed have fewer ways to keep it that way. He paused. I'd prefer to explain in person. I met him in a cafe that didn't play music and took itself seriously. He wore the kind of suit that looks quiet and costs a car. No theatrics, no oily charm. Just a legal pad, a pen, and a face that had practiced bad news until it sounded like weather. The trust your grandmother established, he began, was set to split at 25. Equal shares for you and your sister. Contingent on competency and independent judgment. He didn't have to say it. We both felt the echo, the performance my father tried to stage with that glass. Reed slid a folder across the table. We've located an addendum. Funds placed in a blind entity, tied to philanthropic intent, not reported. How much? A significant amount? He said the number. It didn't sound real. It sounded like a lottery ticket recited in Latin. I rubbed my thumb over the paper's edge. What does this mean for me? It means you'll be in the news again. He set the pen down. It also means you have choices. Choices. The word rang hopeful and cruel at once, because choices don't live in a vacuum. Choices live in a world where the public has opinions, and institutions fear headlines, and trauma has a half-life. I walked home with the folder pressed to my ribs like a shield. On the subway, a woman looked at me, then the folder, then back at me with a half-smile that said she knew who I was. Maybe she did. Maybe she just liked my shoes. That's the thing about being watched. You start writing other people's thoughts for them. Back in my apartment, Chloe was on the floor with charcoal on her fingers, a sketch taking shape, hands almost touching, tension between the fingertips. She glanced up. You okay? Define okay. She wiped her hands, stood, scanned my face the way sisters do. What happened? Money happened, I said. Grandma's money, hidden, complicated. Her mouth opened, then closed. Is it ours? A pause. It's meant for us. We didn't talk about numbers. We talked about weight, about what it means to carry something that can build or break you, about how money in our family had always arrived with strings, performance requirements, a script you had to read from or lose your place in the scene. You might think a windfall lands like confetti. It doesn't. It lands like weather. Unavoidable, changing plans you didn't know you'd made. By evening, the story had grown more teeth. One outlet framed it as redemption. Grandmother's vision saves granddaughters. Another turned it into suspicion. Was money the real motive all along? You see how easily that flips? How survivor can become schemer with one headline? I scrolled and felt my chest seized. I put the phone down and the panic stayed. I picked the phone up and it got worse. Anxiety is an abusive narrator. It tells the same story louder until you believe it. I went to the window. Across the street, a boy in a blue helmet rode a scooter in determined loops, every lap a victory. 2 floors below, a couple argued gently about Basil. The world had the audacity to keep being the world. The folder waited on my desk. I paged through legalese that felt like a different language, clean and precise and so far from the messy human thing it tried to capture. Phrases leapt out. Disbursement schedule, fiduciary duty, good faith accounting. I remembered my father's voice teaching Chloe how to shake hands. Firm, but not eager. I remembered my mother lowering a necklace onto my collarbone before a gala. Chin up. Smile like it costs you nothing. Flashback, fast and blurry. The first time I asked if we could donate my allowance to a shelter, my father laughed like I'd mispronounced a word. The first time I said I wanted to study families, not finance, his jaw clenched so tight a vein jumped. Money was never neutral in our house. It was a leash, a mirror, a weapon. I closed the folder. The paper made a sound like a door deciding to shut. Here's the part I need you to understand. I wasn't afraid of the number. I was afraid of what the number could make people see. Afraid of losing the fragile, honest life I'd started building because the past had flung a bag of gold into my hallway and dared me to trip over it. Late night, my phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown account. If you're smart, you'll stay quiet. That money comes with ghosts. I stared at those words until the screen dimmed. Then I typed back a sentence I'd been practicing out loud when the room was empty. I'm done being quiet. I didn't hit send, not yet, but I saved it. Sometimes the promise you make to yourself has to live in drafts before it can live in public. So here we are. The party is over. The verdict ink is dry, and still the story refuses to end. The inheritance won't stay buried. The headlines won't either. Tell me, when your name becomes a stranger's favorite word, how do you hold on to who you are? You think the story settles when the judge's gavel falls. You think the villains leave the stage and the lights come up. But some people don't exit. They wait in the wings, they listen for a cue that isn't theirs and take it anyway. It started with a Tuesday that felt like a bruise. Sore but fading. Chloe and I were at my kitchen table, splitting a cinnamon roll like we always did when the day felt heavier than it should. Charcoal smudged her knuckles. My laptop hummed. The folder about the trust sat between us like a third presence that breathed too loud. I'm going to the gallery to drop these sketches, she said, stacking paper gently. Back by 2. Text me when you get there, I said, the reflex of a sister who still measured time by emergency room monitors. She saluted with a half smile and left. The apartment exhaled. I tried to read. The words behaved for 10 minutes. At 1:17 p.m., my phone lit up. Chloe, you won't believe this. Then a photo came through, grainy, zoomed, the colors doing that piercing city glare, a sidewalk, a black sedan. And my mother, Mary, stepping out in a cream coat, pearls bright like punctuation. Standing beside her, Daniel Reed, the same lawyer who'd told me the trust wouldn't stay buried. My throat closed, opened, closed again. Where are you? I typed. Madison and 58th. Followed her from the apartment. She's meeting him, going inside now. Don't go in, I sent quickly, knowing it was already too late. I grabbed my bag and ran, down 2 flights, through the sour stairwell, out past the reporters who had learned my building's rhythm. The subway roared like a warning. Cars were packed. I counted stops like a person counts heartbeats before a panic attack. 1, 2, breathe. 3, 4, don't think. When I reached the address, the building rose like a blade. Mirrored glass, marble veins, brass that reflected you back with just enough distortion to make you doubt your posture. I spotted Chloe across the street, half hidden behind a newsstand, hair tucked into a beanie, eyes sharp. What happened? I asked, breath fogging. She went in with him, Chloe said, like they knew each other. Maybe he called her, I offered, already hating the softness in my voice. Or she called him. Chloe's jaw set. I'm going up. We crossed with the light. The lobby smelled expensive, fresh flowers and polished ambition. A concierge looked up with the particular smile of someone trained to slow people down without ever saying stop. "Can we help you?" he asked. "We're here to see Mr. Reed," Chloe said, smooth, steady. "He's expecting us." The man glanced at a screen. Name, Chloe Hart, Elena Hart. He hesitated, just long enough for the elevator doors to open and close. "One moment." Chloe leaned in, voice low. "Do we wait?" "2 minutes," I said. "Then we decide." 1 minute later, the doors slid open again. Daniel stepped out, surprise flaring across his otherwise disciplined face. Behind him, Mary emerged, pristine and composed, like grief had skipped her calendar. "Elena," he said. "I was going to call." "Were you?" I asked, heat rising. "Before or after this meeting?" Mary tilted her head, soft as silk. "We're all on the same side." "Which side is that?" I asked. "Truth or optics?" Chloe didn't bother with soft. "Mom, why are you here?" Mary's eyes flicked to Chloe, then to me. "Because I am still your mother." She clasped her purse tighter. "And I will not watch what your grandmother built get squandered by mistakes. Mistakes." The word landed like a stone. The marble floor hummed. Daniel stepped between the currents. "Perhaps we can discuss this in conference room B." "No," I said. "Right here." Mary's smile thinned, then disappeared. "Fine. The trust is complicated. It requires discretion. The papers your father failed to disclose can still be handled properly if we move quickly, if we present a united front." Chloe's laugh was bright and brittle. "A united front?" "After he tried to kill Elena?" Mary flinched, anger flashing like metal. "Lower your voice." "Why?" I asked. "So the lobby won't hear that you're negotiating our future without us?" Daniel lifted a hand. I reached out to Mrs. Hart to clarify historical intent. "Your grandmother tasked certain trustees with philanthropic oversight. Mrs. Hart has relationships that could..." "Could what?" I cut in. "Reclaim narrative? Manage damage? Control us again?" Mary's gaze sharpened to a point. "Control is a cruel word when all I want is to keep what is ours from being devoured by the press and the courts." "What's ours?" Chloe asked. "Yours or ours?" Mary took a step closer, pearls catching light like little moons. "Listen to me. This city eats girls who believe slogans, independence, voice, healing. It will love you until the story cools, then it will turn. I will not let that happen to you." For a heartbeat, something in her voice almost sounded like love. Then I remembered love doesn't schedule secret meetings. Love doesn't appear only when signatures are involved. "Say it plainly," I said. "What do you want?" She held my gaze. "To take it all back, the name, the money, the narrative. To set it right before you two ruin it beyond repair." There it was. No velvet, just blade. The air seemed to thin, like we were all breathing from the same small cup. "Mom," Chloe said softly, "we're not broken things to fix." Mary's expression flickered. "You were children once. You needed my judgment. Now you need my experience." "And what did your judgment get us?" I asked. "A father in prison, a sister in a hospital bed, a daughter who doesn't sleep without the light on." Daniel cleared his throat. "The immediate concern is compliance. If we agree on counsel and a communication strategy, we can minimize exposure." "Exposure for whom?" I asked. "Us or the board you're protecting?" His jaw tightened. "For everyone." Chloe shifted, squaring herself. "You're not hearing us. We don't want a script. We want choices that are ours." Mary sighed, an elegant little sound that used to end every childhood argument. "You want chaos. You mistake chaos for freedom." My hands trembled. I pressed my fingers together until the tremor hid in the joints. "Freedom isn't chaos. Freedom is doors that open from the inside." The concierge pretended not to stare. The lobby's flower arrangement pretended not to wilt. Outside, cabs sliced the afternoon into yellow pieces. Inside, time stalled. Mary's voice went quiet, dangerous. If you reject my help, others will step in, trustees, family friends, people who know how these matters work. They will not be as gentle. Gentle? Chloe said, incredulous. You call this gentle? I call it necessary, Mary replied. Then she looked at me, a final measured look I recognized from every gala photo ever taken. Elena. You can either stand with me and I can shield you, or you can stand against me and I will not. Everything in me wanted to fold because old habits rehearse themselves when you're tired. But another part of me, the part that learned to breathe through courtroom air and hospital light, stood up. I'm not standing against you, I said. I'm finally standing with myself. For a second, her eyes glossed. Then the shutters fell. She turned to Daniel. We'll be in touch. To us. Don't do anything foolish. She walked back to the elevator, pearls steady, heels crisp, spine straight like a ruler set on top of a child's knuckles. Daniel looked at me, apology hovering. I'll send you the documents, he said, all of them. Do that, I answered, to both of us. He nodded. The doors closed on Mary's reflection. The lobby exhaled. People moved again. Somewhere a pen rolled off a desk and clicked on tile. Outside, the sky had gone a shade darker, like the day had decided to lean into evening early. We stood on the sidewalk, the wind lifting Chloe's hair, the city's noise turning tinny and thin for a beat. She wants to take it all back, Chloe said. I heard, I said. What do we do? We decide, I said, in daylight, not in someone else's lobby. We walked to the corner in silence, each step pressing the concrete like a signature we chose. Suspicion prickled my skin, not a fear of shadows, but of smiles, of doors that open too easily, of rooms where the air is manicured. If you've ever had someone return only to rewrite your ending, you know this feeling. It isn't rage, not yet. It's the click of a lock you didn't install. It's the knowledge that you left a window open because you wanted fresh air, and now the wind is rearranging the whole house. Back home, the folder waited. The kettle hissed. Chloe set her sketches down like they were eggs. I opened a blank document and typed a single sentence. Our decisions will be ours. Then I saved it. Then I said it out loud. Tell me, when someone you love tries to shield you by taking your story, how do you take it back without becoming what they say you are? You think the worst is the crime? It isn't. The worst is the chorus after. The voices that don't know you, singing your life off-key at full volume. It started with a ping, then another, then a flood. My phone became a hive. Messages from numbers I didn't save. Headlines I didn't write. Clips of me I didn't consent to. Chloe looked up from her sketch, eyes asking, Now? Already? I nodded. Already. The first video was a glossy reel, B-roll of a glittering penthouse, a staircase like a spine, champagne flutes lined up like soldiers. Over it, a voice. New development in the Heart scandal. They said my name like it tasted expensive. They said hidden trust, like a villain reveal. Then the twist. Sources close to the family suggest Elena may have orchestrated the infamous glass switch to secure control. My thumb froze. I could feel my pulse in the nail bed. Under the clip, the comments moved like a stampede. Called it. She always looked cold, poor Chloe. Team Elena forever. Team Mary. Everyone had a team, like this was a season finale. My life turned into merch. I wanted to toss the phone into the sink and run the water. Instead, I scrolled because hurt is curious. It leans in. It wants to see its shape. By noon, the story had jumped feeds. News anchors spoke in careful tones that made slander sound like scholarship. They played the hospital footage of Chloe on a stretcher. They cut to a slow-motion shot of me at the party, hand hovering near a flute. Freeze, zoom, circle, arrow. Was this the moment? You know that sick feeling when someone rewinds your worst hour and narrates it for you? Your body turns to glass. You can hear your heartbeat clink. My email pinged. Request for comment. Another, we can help you tell your side. A third, declining to respond implies guilt. That one used the word implies like a finger on a bruise. By 2, my advisor called, Elena, I'm so sorry. Students are confused. Some parents reached out. Administration wants to keep an eye on the climate. The climate, I repeated, like it was a weather pattern and not a mob with Wi-Fi. If you need time, take it. What I needed was a pause button for the internet. Then came the clip that flipped the day. A mic in Mary's hand. A backdrop with a charity logo. Cameras. That smile she'd practiced for decades. Smooth, soft, devastating. First and foremost, she said, voice threaded with sorrow, I love both my daughters. Oh, she touched her chest. The pearls flashed. I won't pretend our family hasn't suffered, but I cannot stand by while the truth is lost in sensationalism. Her gaze dropped, just enough to read as humility. I have reason to believe that what happened at the party was not what it seemed. A reporter pounced. Are you suggesting Elena orchestrated the incident? Mary inhaled as if the air hurt. I'm suggesting there were choices made under pressure. Choices that have consequences. My job as a mother is to protect my children, even when protection looks like asking hard questions. There it was, not an accusation, an invitation to accuse me for her. The sophistication of it landed like a blade wrapped in silk, Chloe gasped. I didn't. I'd grown up on that tone, the one that turned betrayal into caretaking. The clip spread in seconds. It sprouted subtitles, hashtags, stitches. People who had never met me annotated my face. Look at her eyes' guilt. No. Look at her posture trauma. No. Look at her hands calculating. When you're a woman, your body becomes exhibit A long before your words do. My phone rang, Daniel. Don't respond yet, he said. Let the noise crest, then we act. And while it crests, I asked. Don't feed it, he said. Silence is strategy. Silence had never saved me. Silence had given monsters the only microphone. The apartment seemed to shrink. The kettle hissed like a snake. I opened the window. February air sliced my cheeks clean. Below, a delivery guy shouted, "Heads up!" and laughed when a bag almost slipped. The city kept doing its job. I envied the loyalty of it. I checked Chloe. She'd gone pale in the fragile way that makes you want to wrap someone in bubble wrap and hide them. I'll go buy groceries, she said too brightly. We need apples. Are you sure? She nodded. I need movement. She left a charcoal smudge on my wrist. We're okay, she said, as if saying could make it true. Alone, I made a mistake. I clicked on a live panel, 4 strangers, 2 suited, 2 loose-collared, all eager. The Chiron, motive and means, the psychology of a poison plot. They debated me like a case study. The woman on the left said, I fit a pattern. The neglected child acts out when stakes are high. The man on the right countered, or she's a target of projection. They said she and her and the daughter like pronouns were armor. Nobody said Elena like it was a person. Enough, I told the empty room. My voice shook. I moved through the apartment touching objects like lifelines. Mug, plant, book, lamp. Enough. The door buzzer screamed. I froze, then pressed talk. Yes? A male voice. Package for Elena Hart. I didn't order anything. From a publicist, he said. Says urgent. I went down because I am still the kind of fool who chooses curiosity. The box was white, ribboned, absurdly luxurious. Inside, a silk blouse in a color I'd never wear. A note signed with a name I recognized from morning show credits. When you're ready to reclaim your story, wear this on our couch. I laughed. I cried. I threw the blouse on a chair where it slumped like a person who just realized they were unwelcome. By late afternoon, the takes had evolved like a virus. One outlet magnified Mary's pause and called it dignity. Another framed it as weaponized motherhood. Friends texted, asking how to defend me online. Strangers DM'd, demanding I apologize to Chloe for a crime I didn't commit. A podcaster left a voicemail. Was it an accident? Be honest. America loves honesty. Here's the thing you learn when the mob decides you're interesting. They don't want your truth. They want your tears to sparkle under their lighting. Night came early, blue and thin. Chloe returned with apples and a jaw set to steel. They followed me to the corner, she said, dumping fruit into the bowl. Asked if I feared my sister. What did you say? That I feared our mother's performance more. We ate standing up. Apples like small moons in our hands. The simplicity of biting, chewing, swallowing felt like rebellion. My phone vibrated again. A notification I didn't expect. An email from my undergraduate professor, Dr. Lyons. Subject line, remember your methods. Inside, noise isn't data, save everything. Timestamp, archive, breathe. 3 sentences like a ladder, I climbed them. I opened a folder and began collecting. Mary's clip, the panel, the headlines, every source close to the family. I took screenshots, I saved URLs, I wrote a timeline. My hand steadied with every entry. Order is a small god. Then I wrote one more thing at the top of a blank page. If guilt is assumed, what would proof look like? I wasn't asking for their sake. I was asking for mine, for my sanity, for the voice that still stuttered when it said innocent in front of a mirror. So let me ask you, if it were you, if the world decided your pain was a plot, how would you prove your innocence? Documents? Witnesses? Your own steady breath? What counts when the court is a comment section? That's the bite of this moment. Not just the injustice, but the dare baked into it. Show us your clean hands while we stand on your neck. I closed the laptop. The room fell quiet in that heavy way that means everything is awake. Chloe looked at me. What now? Now we hold, I said. We don't chase every lie. We build the truth we'll need. You won't stay silent, she said. No, I said. But I will stay precise. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from an unknown New York number. You can't outrun a story, Elena. I typed back. I don't need to outrun it. I need to outlast it. I hit send. And if you're listening, if you've been the subject on someone else's headline, tell me this. Where did you find your evidence of self when public proof wasn't enough? The day after my mother's interview, campus didn't feel like campus. It felt like a hallway that never ended, floors too shiny, lights too bright. Every door a mirrored question. Are you her? In the seminar room, the windows were tall enough to make you honest. 12 students in a circle, doctor. Lions at the head, cardigan the color of late leaves, hands folded, eyes kind and stern at once. On the whiteboard, ethics of narrative. I almost laughed. I took my seat. My chair scraped, and the sound felt like a siren. Across from me, 2 classmates whispered. The kind of whisper that forgets it's a knife. One of them opened a tab and didn't bother to tilt the screen away. My face, my mother, the clip, doctor. Lyons cleared his throat. Today we'll talk about informed consent, power, and harm. A beat, then softer. We'll also talk about staying human in public storms. His eyes flicked to me, not lingering, just enough to say, I see you, but you're still a student, not a spectacle. He began the discussion. Hands went up. Terms filled the air like careful furniture. Agency, coercion, undue influence. Then a student in a blue hoodie raised his hand and didn't wait to be called. What about when a source might be lying? He asked. Like, if someone stages a scene to get what they want? Silence stretched. He turned to me, eyebrows up as if he'd asked about the weather. My skin prickled. I kept my face still. Dr. Lyons stepped in. We avoid hypotheticals that name the living without consent. Let's ground this in research. Blue Hoodie wasn't done. But how do we know the truth when we only have video and a mother's word? He said mother's word like it was scripture. I felt the room tilt. Another hand. A girl with silver hoops. Or, how do we protect a target from a smear? She said, glancing at me like she'd just slid a sweater over my shoulders. You know the feeling when a room splits into teams you never asked to join? That. Breathing turned into work, doctor. Lyons wrote on the board. Noise does not equal data. Then he turned back. We practice 3 things: pause, verify, and protect. The pause is not silence. It is precision. The words landed and didn't stick. My phone buzzed. A text from the department admin. Quick check-in after class? 2 minutes later, another. We've had parent calls. I pictured mothers whose sons would never be accused of staging anything. I pictured emails with subject lines as sharp as paper cuts. A hand went up at the back. Should a person step back from their program while under scrutiny? The speaker's tone was lab-grown neutral. I stared at the grain of the table and saw a river I could fall into. Dr. Lyons didn't blink. We do not exile people by rumor, he said. We create structures that let learning continue without turning classrooms into courts. His voice was steel wrapped in kindness. It held. Class ended. Chairs scraped. Backpacks zipped. Hoops earrings brushed my shoulder on the way out. You okay? She asked under her breath. I'm here, I said. Sometimes that's the win. Outside, the hallway smelled like hand sanitizer and anxious coffee. I went to the admin office, a glass box pretending to be a room. The administrator, Miss Grant, passed me a paper cup of water and a look I couldn't read. Elena, she began, fingers steepled. We're monitoring the climate. There it was again. Climate. Like a storm you could track on a map. A few concerns have been raised. About my safety? About the program's reputation, she said, flinching at her own accuracy. And yes, safety. We have protocols. She slid a pamphlet across the desk. It had a photo of students laughing under a tree they had clearly been paid to enjoy. I'm not a threat, I said. My voice came out small and precise, like a scalpel. No one is saying that. They are. They just replace my name with nouns, she swallowed. If you need to take an incomplete this term, we can accommodate. If you want to reduce your hours at the research center, because my mother did an interview, because we're all being watched, she said gently, as if gentleness could serve as anesthesia. I nodded, the way you nod when you refuse to cry in public. Thank you for the options. Think about it, she said. Email me either way. I left with the pamphlet and the kind of fury that sits low, heavy, hot. In the stairwell, I let myself breathe loud. My lungs sounded like someone else's weather. Outside, winter had chapped the sky. I walked until I found a bench that didn't mind my weight. The city did its city things. Sirens in minor key, pigeons voting with their feet, a bus sighing at a red light. I texted Chloe, "How are you?" She replied, "Mom called. Twice." My stomach clenched. What did she say? That she misses us. That we should come to dinner. That we're letting strangers decide our future, and you? A full minute, I don't know. There it was. The wobble. The invisible hinge that could swing either way. I stared at her last 3 words until they blurred. I called. She picked up on the first ring. I hate this, she said. I hate that I don't know what to believe when she sounds like that. She sounds like home, I said. That's her skill. Is it wrong to want my mother? No, I said. It's human. I pressed my palm to the bench, felt the rough wood bite. But want doesn't make her safe. She went quiet. I could hear her breathing, the faint scratch of charcoal in the background like crickets. What if, she started, then stopped. What if what? What if the internet is right? What if you did switch the glasses on purpose to keep all this? Her voice broke on this. The trust, the noise, the attention neither of us wanted. A cold went through me that had nothing to do with weather. I closed my eyes. If I'd wanted money, I said, I would have been nicer at galas. She laughed through her nose, tiny and sad. I'm sorry. You don't have to be. You're allowed to ask the ugliest question, quote. I don't like who it makes me, she whispered. You're someone who's been lied to by the people who trained you to listen, I said. That's not a flaw, that's a wound. We sat in that shared silence that only siblings can make. A silence that says I'm here without asking how. Will you come home soon? She asked. I'm on my way, I said. On the walk, I rehearsed the 2 roads I could see. Road 1. Step back, take incompletes, go offline. Let the storm eat itself, protect my tiny life like a candle. Road 2. Stay visible, document everything, speak with receipts. Invite the light and risk the burn. Which would you choose? Safety that looks like silence, or danger that sounds like your own voice? At home, Chloe had left the door unlocked. The apartment smelled like grapefruit and pencil shavings. She sat cross-legged on the floor, hair in a messy knot, eyes rimmed red. On the table, the folder about the trust, my advisor's email, a half-eaten orange, and a note in Chloe's handwriting. We are not props. I don't want to be at war, she said before I took off my coat. Me either. I don't want to be on Mom's side or against Mom's side. I want a side that's ours. Then we make one, I said. She looked at the folder. If we go public, they'll say we're chasing attention. If we hide, they'll say we're guilty. They'll say something either way, I said. The question is, what do we say? We stood in the kitchen, the kind of room that has witnessed a lifetime of small decisions. I poured water. She peeled the rest of the orange. We ate in silence. Segments sweet and sharp. My phone buzzed. Doctor. Lions again. Office hours open. If you want a quiet room, I typed. Thank you. Not today. Then I stared at the blinking cursor and felt the weight of everything I hadn't said yet. I opened a blank document. The page glowed like a dare. My fingers hovered. And then I did the thing, Doctor. Lions had taught us when a narrative tries to commandeer you. I paused, not to disappear, to be precise. The apartment's hum settled. My breath found its count. I said it out loud, for me, for Chloe, for whoever I was before the world turned us into content. But here's the truth. I let the sentence hang. I didn't fill it yet. A pause can be a boundary. A pause can be a promise. A pause can be a hand on the table that says, I will speak, but I will not be rushed into your script. Chloe touched my shoulder. Whatever you write, she said. I'll read it first. Whatever you decide, I said. I'll stand beside it. The 2 roads didn't join. They ran parallel. Maybe the trick wasn't to choose one forever, but to step from one to the other as needed, like crossing a river on stones that only appear when you trust your foot. I closed my eyes and saw the classroom, the whiteboard, the word protect. I saw Miss Grant's pamphlet. I saw my mother's pearls, bright as bait. I saw the trust folder like a mouth wanting a story to live in. Then I saw us, 2 girls in a kitchen, choosing the smallest, honest next thing. Tell me, if you were me, if your future asked you for a posture, would you bow your head to survive this year, or lift your chin and risk the wind? I didn't go quiet. I went organized. There's a difference. All week I collected the mess like a custodian after a parade, glitter that cut like glass, confetti that hid nails, screenshots, emails. The hospital talks report with the compound spelled out in Latin syllables. The kitchen hallway camera stills the police had filed. My father's hand, the vial, the gold-rimmed flute. The time-stamped text from a cater waiter. He told me, don't touch that one. The case index number. The the judge's remarks about breach of familial duty. I made a folder called Receipts. Then I made 3 mirrors of it in the cloud. Then I made a plan, not a speech, a sequence. Chloe sat cross-legged on the floor, laptop open, fingers black with charcoal and resolve. "Ready?" she asked. "As I'll ever be." Her mouth tilted. "Then let's give the internet what it hates most, context. We filmed in our kitchen because truth doesn't need a set. No makeup, no lighting tricks, just a window in our faces. I looked into the lens and let the silence hold for 1 beat, 2, enough to feel like a choice. "My name is Elena Hart," I began. "You've heard a lot about me. I'd like you to hear from me. I will show my evidence. You can check every page." I kept sentences short, bones without fat. First, the timeline, party call time, toast time, collapse time. Then, the hospital. Talk screen with measured levels low enough to explain Chloe's survival, high enough to prove tampering. I held the paper up, edges straight with my thumbs. "This is the compound," I said, pronouncing it once. "Here is the date. Here is the doctor's signature. Next, the hallway footage. We cut to a still, the grainy clarity that makes your stomach drop, a man's profile, my father, his fingers at the rim of the flute, freeze, zoom, the vial glinting like a secret that wanted to be known. "Pause here," I said gently, "if you need to breathe." Then the prosecutor's filing, names redacted by the court, chain of custody, the gold-rimmed flute logged into evidence. I read 1 line from the judge's ruling, no theatrics, just the sentence as written. "The court finds sufficient evidence of intent and opportunity consistent with attempted harm. We didn't smear, we didn't speculate. We didn't say my mother's name, we didn't have to. We moved to the trust, dates of creation, addendum discovery, fiduciary obligations." "Money is not motive when your life is the price," I said. "And if you think it is, read the paperwork with me." Finally, I looked back into the lens. "If you're going to judge me, do it with the same documents the court did." My throat tightened. "And if you stood with me already, thank you. I didn't earn that with charm. I hope I earn it with proof." We hit upload, we hit publish. Then we hit send to 10 reporters who had treated facts like furniture. Useful, moved around without apology. My email was simple. Full case file, links authenticated, comment attached. For 10 minutes, nothing. The apartment hummed. The kettle clicked off. My heart worked through a marathon at a desk. Then, breaking news. The banner slid across my phone like a drum roll. New documents in Heart case contradict viral claims. A sober anchor, tie practical, voice careful. Tonight, we have obtained case files and court records that appear to validate earlier law enforcement findings regarding the incident at a graduation party last spring. We caution viewers, some images may be disturbing. The footage cut to the still, the vial, the glass, the judge's line, not my tears, not my dress, evidence. Chloe whooped so loud the neighbor thumped the ceiling in either celebration or protest. We didn't care. We stood in our tiny kitchen and breathed like free people. Then came the replies. Reporters who'd ignored me wrote back with words I recognized from academic apologies. "We regret the earlier framing. We're updating the story." One sent a draft link labeled corrections so big it felt like the internet had learned to whisper, "Sorry." But the biggest turn didn't come from a newsroom. It came from a boardroom I didn't see. Someone, somewhere, must have checked their own exposure, because within hours, the charity that hosted my mother's microphone posted a statement that shifted the ground. "We do not endorse speculation that undermines due process or the safety of survivors. We have removed last week's clip pending review. The clip vanished. The stitches that fed on it starved. New stitches sprouted. People reading from the file we'd uploaded, zooming in on words that didn't need dramatic music. Mary stayed silent for a day. Then came a statement through a PR firm with a soothing name. I love my daughters. Any comments that may have caused confusion came from grief, not malice. The internet parsed May and confusion like oracles. I didn't parse anything. I saved the PDF and added it to receipts. Chloe squeezed my hand. We did it. We did part of it, I said. Doing it is a verb that never wants to end. Email softened. My advisor wrote, proud of your method, miss. Grant sent, when you're ready, let's discuss next steps that keep the focus on your work. A student with silver hoops DM'd me a screenshot of a group chat where Blue Hoodie typed my bad without punctuation. That felt like a tiny parade. Then Daniel called. You bought us oxygen, he said. Trust Council are recalibrating. There's talk of honoring the addendum as written. Quietly, cleanly, double quote. How clean is clean? As clean as paperwork can make something human, he said. Cleaner than your mother's last press moment. She's been asked to step back. Chloe leaned into my shoulder, relief like warmth under a blanket. Do we celebrate? She mouthed. In increments, I mouthed back. We didn't open champagne. We made grilled cheese and ate it leaning on the counter, laughter leaking out in short, shocked bursts the way it does when the bear finally leaves the campsite. But here's the thing about relief. It doesn't erase the before. It sits beside it. It holds its hand. I still had the looped question in my head. What if they hadn't listened? What if proof hadn't been pretty enough? There's no answer. There's only the next right thing, so we did that. We walked to the precinct and filed harassment reports for the worst DMs. We emailed the department a simple expectation list. No classroom ambushes, no anonymous concerns as policy. We set a boundary around our faces online. No more embedding our images in strangers' thumbnails without permission. Some asked nicely, many did not. We said no anyway. That night, a producer emailed a different kind of request. We'll run your documents on air, no couch, no outfit, just you on Zoom with your lawyer. I wrote back, run the documents. You don't need my face for the truth to be true, update. A second banner slid in, court documents verify evidence, family statement retracted. The anchor's tone was plain. The panelists were quiet. For once, no one tried to make a poem out of my life. They let the facts stand with their own posture. Chloe turned off her phone and lay on the rug like a starfish washed onto a warm dock. I didn't know victory could feel like a nap, she said. Sleep is a revolution, I said, and meant it. Before bed, I opened the receipts folder one more time. I added a last file. A photo Chloe took of the two of us, blurry, grinning, tired. I titled it Evidence_of Living, JPG, not for the court. For the part of me that once believed survival required a performance. If you need a moral from me, I don't have one. I have a method. Gather, verify, share with care. I have a sentence. Power hates receipts. I have a hope that the next girl who is asked to defend herself in a comments section will have a map and a mirror. And for the record, Chloe chose, without any prompting from me. She posted her own note, short and strong. I stand with my sister. I always will. No hashtags, no music. The kind of sentence that ends arguments because it doesn't audition for applause. So yes, tonight I feel something I haven't felt since before the chandelier light hit that gold rim. Permission to exhale, to sleep, to wake up and work on the things I actually came here to do. Tell me, when you finally cleared your name, even just to yourself, what small ordinary thing did you do to mark it? A sandwich? A shower? A walk around the block? Morning found us before the alarm did. Thin light on the wall. The radiator clicking like a metronome learning a new song. Chloe was already up, hair haloed, sketchbook open to a page that looked like a door halfway ajar. Coffee? She asked. Please, I said, because permission can sound like small kindnesses. We didn't celebrate with champagne. We celebrated with toast and butter and a quiet that didn't feel like hiding. My phone lay face down on the table, not because I feared it, but because I finally didn't need it to tell me who I was. Here's the truth I didn't know I was walking toward. Sometimes closure isn't a bang. It's a sequence of ordinary minutes that refuse to be interrupted. The kettle hums, the toast pops. The window fogs and clears on its own time. I opened my laptop anyway, not to check comments, to write. The research proposal I'd abandoned lived in a folder called Work That Matters. I clicked it. It clicked back. The cursor blinked like a heartbeat. My study was simple on the surface. How families rebuild after betrayal, not headlines, not big names, regular people with freezers full of lasagna from good neighbors. I wasn't going to harvest anyone's pain for a thesis. I wanted to build a map through it. Questions that ask gently. Methods that refuse to harm. Chloe read over my shoulder, chin on my hair. "You kept this voice alive," she said. "I kept it in a drawer," I said. "Alive is alive," she answered. "Take the win." We walked to the community center after lunch. 2 blocks, 1 crosswalk, the sky a sheet of clean paper. I'd emailed ahead. Just a small interview pilot. Anonymous, gift cards for thanks. Ms. Ortiz met us at the door with a hug that felt like someone anchoring a tent in wind. "Heard your storm blew east," she said, eyes kind. "It rained where it needed to," I said. "Good," she nodded. "We've got a group at 3, moms, dads, a grandmother who could run the city if she wanted. We set up chairs in a circle, no podium, no stage, just the democracy of eye level." I taped up a sign that said, "Your story, your pace." It wasn't a slogan, it was a rule. The first to arrive was a woman with ink on her fingers that wasn't charcoal, receipt ink, shift ink. She sat and exhaled the kind of breath people only let out in rooms that won't judge them for it. Then a teenager came in with a backpack that had been a pillow more than once. Then the grandmother, silver hair in a braid, eyes that knew courtrooms, kitchens, and the exact time buses pretend they're not late. I didn't start with my story. I started with water and consent forms that read like English instead of a trap. I asked what names they wanted to use. I asked how they wanted to be asked. We built the room together. "What do we do when the person who says they love us also handles us like a thing?" the teenager asked, voice steady, words too old. "We learn to be a person louder than their script," the grandmother said. "And how?" "1 sentence at a time," she answered. Out loud, I listened. I recorded with permission. I watched shame loosen its grip on shoulders, inch by inch. I took notes on where laughter survived and where it couldn't yet. I wrote down phrases that didn't belong to me and promised not to steal them. Chloe sat in the corner, sketching the curve of a wrist mid-gesture, the way hope lifts a chin a degree you don't notice until you draw it. Later, she'd tell me she was working on a series, hands that almost let go and chose not to. After the group, Ms. Ortiz walked us to the door. "You're good at making space," she said. "I've learned what happens when space is stolen," I said. "Keep learning," she smiled. "Then teach." We left with the kind of tired that means your body did what it was made to do. On the way home, Chloe veered into a park to photograph shadows on the path. "I like when the darks and lights decide to be friends," she said. "That's a painting title," I said. "It's a life title," she grinned. Back at the apartment, a package waited. Not silk, not a stunt, brown paper. My grandmother's handwriting on the return label, saved from a drawer in the old house, forwarded by a cousin who had decided to choose us quietly. My name curved like she'd known I'd need the softness later. Inside, a recipe card for lemon squares, a church program with a lipstick print on the back, and a letter written years ago before things frayed. "Elena," it began. "If you ever feel small in a room that needs you to be small, step into the hallway and remind your spine who raised you, then walk back in, chin level, voice steady. You don't have to win every argument to win your life." I didn't cry. I let the words sit beside me like a person who didn't need to be thanked to stay. Toward evening, Daniel called with the bureaucratic version of grace. "Addendum honored," he said. "Funds partitioned for community work, as the document intended, no strings. Board votes recorded. Your mother has agreed to step back from any advisory role. On paper," I said. "On paper is where leverage lives," he said. "Use it well." We hung up. I put the phone down. I picked up the recipe card. We made lemon squares because sometimes sweetness isn't a metaphor, it's dessert. While they baked, Chloe set a canvas on the floor, pastels this time, not charcoal, blues that didn't bruise, gold that didn't glitter like wealth, but like late sun on a kitchen wall. "I'm sending 3 pieces to the co-op show," she said. "Title for the set, Exit Wounds, Healed Edges." "I'll be the girl in the front row," I said. "You'll be the girl in the flyer," she shot back. "Community series by Dr. Hart. Soon." "Too soon," I laughed. "Soon enough," she said. We ate lemon squares too hot, sugar burning our tongues in the nicest way. We watched a dumb sitcom where the stakes are a lost dog and a missed bus, and nobody uses the word narrative. We let relief do the dishes with us. It left a little soap on a spoon. We didn't mind. Later, I opened my laptop one more time. Not the receipts folder. The work that matters won. I wrote a paragraph that felt like a promise to the girl who hid in bathrooms at galas. Family is not a contract we sign at birth. Family is the table we build and the chairs we invite people to sit in with us. Respect is the only currency anyone gets to spend there. I saved the document and named it after the grandmother's braid. I scheduled interviews with 3 more centers. I drafted a consent script that let "no" be the easiest word in the room. I emailed Ms. Grant a list of boundaries that sounded less like demands and more like architecture. "Doors here, windows here. This wall stays," she replied. "Done." I stepped onto the fire escape with a blanket and the kind of night air that smells like laundry and cumin and late trains. Below, someone played an old song on a new speaker. Above, someone watered plants in the dark. The city behaved like itself again. Chloe joined me with 2 mugs. "You okay?" "I'm here," I said. "Still the win," she smiled. We sat without narrating the sitting. We let the quiet do some work. After a while, I said the sentence I'd been rolling on my tongue all day. "Your family is who shows up to help you live your own life," I said. "Not who asks you to live theirs." Chloe clinked her mug to mine. "To chosen chairs at chosen tables. I don't want to pretend the shadow is gone. It's not. It's smaller. It minds its place. It doesn't decide where the light goes anymore. That's enough for tonight. If you need a picture to hold this. 2 sisters on metal steps, city noise like a lullaby, lemon and sugar in the air, a letter folded in a pocket, and a window behind them that reflects 2 people who look like themselves. Your story may not have a chandelier or a courtroom. It may be a grocery line where you don't apologize for taking your turn. It may be a phone call you let go to voicemail because you owe no one your piece. It may be a form you refuse to sign. It counts. The small counts. The quiet counts. The next thing counts most. We went inside. I wrote 3 words on a sticky note and stuck it to the fridge where the grocery list would have to read it first. Your story matters. I wanted to see it in the morning when the world tries, as it always does, to edit you into something smaller. If you've walked with me this far, thank you. If you're standing at your own doorway, feeling the draft from a past that won't close, I'm leaving mine open a crack so you can borrow the light. Not because I'm brave, because somebody did that for me once, and it worked. Tell me, what's one small way you'll choose your table this week? A boundary you'll name, a call you won't take, a person you'll invite to sit with you. Put it in one sentence, put your chin level, hit send.